Hi, this is Lori Ellison from Hudson Valley Bookkeeping, Inc., and I'm going to show you how to correctly enter a payroll journal entry. When I go out and help people, one of the things I see a lot is people entering net payroll checks directly into the check register. And they're coding it to maybe net payroll or gross payroll, or maybe just even payroll. But this really isn't the way to do it because you're not actually capturing the actual expense. So right here, what I have up on the screen is a sample of a payroll journal from Paychex. And this is, as you can see, it says Paychex sample payroll. It's not, these people are fictitious. And it's just showing what the Paychex payroll journal looks like. If you have ADP or another payroll service, they're going to look very similar. And what they've highlighted here is generally what you're looking for. So I'm going to bring my cursor over here. So if you look in the column that says earnings, and you go down to the bottom, this is the gross payroll, $3,192.19. But what a lot of people enter directly into their check register is this amount, where it says 716.44. Maybe they'd enter one as that, and then the direct deposit withdrawal 1587.94. They will hit that again as like a net payroll. But then you're actually shorting yourself quite a bit because the 2304.38, the total of the net payroll, is very different than over here, your actual charge of 3192.19. I'm just going to click a couple screens over. And this is the other most important page, in my opinion, when entering a payroll entry, is the cash requirements. Because this is going to show you how much money they're taking out. And it's also snapshotting for you how much your payroll tax is. It's also on the payroll journal. But here it's showing, and in this case, Paychex is taking out all the money in one shot. And sometimes they create the vendor check. So, for instance, this $1587.94 is the direct deposit withdrawal amount. Ready checks, that's where Paychex takes the money all out 2 days before your payroll, and then that check is actually drawn on their bank account. Therefore, you're never having to worry about paychecks that aren't cashed, or worrying about when they're clearing. I like this option with Paychex. And this says garnishment payment, and that means they're going to send the check, or they'll give it to you in a packet to forward to a state agency. Okay, it's also showing, if you look down here, it's got your employer liabilities, and this is the payroll tax expense for the employer. This is the Social Security match, Medicare, unemployment charges. So $355.94 is the employer payroll tax expense. And then they're showing here an extra $55.98. Let's say you just signed on and you haven't made any payments. They're catching you up here. So what do you do when you see these reports? What I do is I make a journal entry. I take the totals from these two pages and I put it into a journal entry, so I'm correctly capturing the actual cost of this payroll run. I'm going to show you how this journal entry in a sample company of QuickBooks Online. So here is my journal entry, and as you can see, maybe good to go back and make a screenshot and print out that payroll journal and the cash withdrawal amounts so you can compare it to this journal entry. But what I'm doing is I took the totals from those reports. So on the payroll journal, it said $3192.19, and I'm hitting that to an expense account called gross payroll. It's an expense. See that? And then I'm capturing all of the different payroll tax expenses of the employer, because you have a match for Social Security and you have a Medicare match, and then you have your unemployment insurance. And Paychex takes this with each payroll run, even though some of these aren't paid to the agencies until the end of the quarter. But this way you're not getting caught with a large tax bill. You know, it could be a couple $1,000s. If you make the payments to Paychex every payroll run, you're never caught red-handed, you know, having a problem coming up with the money. So here was that extra catch-up charge. Here was the employer charge for their doing a 401k match. And then this is where, so pretty much all of this is coming from that payroll journal section. And then the cash requirement page, this shows how much Paychex is going to withdraw for the direct deposit, for a ready check. And if you look, I put in a check number just so we could go look in the register to see what it looks like afterward. Here's a garnishment check. Here's their withdrawal for the taxes. And here's a check that they're cutting for you, but you forward on to, let's say, T. Rowe Price. And this covers both the employee's withholding for the 401k as well as your match. And you can see down here that the totals are the same. So your debits and your credits equal. So let me save and close. And let me also show you, if you're going to this is your first time entering this journal entry, you would just click this gear icon, or it's a quick link icon, I think they call it. Just hit journal entry, and then you'd start again. I already had it entered, so you didn't have to watch me enter every single line item. But here we go. And then I usually put in the memo what date of the payroll and so forth. Like that one showed, you hit payroll account, and let's say this is your exact same thing. You just check 101. This will show up through your check register. It'll also show up in your bank reconciliation window. So let me just X that out. We're not going to save that. So now we've entered the journal entry. And this is a fictitious bank account. It's obviously a sample company. So I don't have any money in it. I just want to show you how the journal entry shows up in your bank account. All from this one payroll entry, you can see the direct deposit withdrawal, the physical check, someone who's not on direct deposit, a garnishment check that would be paid to the state, the tax withdrawal for Paychex, and the check you would send in to T. Rowe Price. It doesn't, it could be whoever it is. So this way, you entered all the checks. I mean, all the cash withdrawals that are going to happen from this payroll run are happening in your bank account, but you actually have captured the true expense of the payroll, and you've captured it correctly. Because if you coded this one, the $1,099.73, if you coded that entire check to, let me just see if I can show you. If you coded the entire thing to tax expense, you would be overstating your taxes. Because as you can see, your taxes weren't $1,099. Part of that is the employee's withholding that's being sent, to the tax agencies. So if you had just written this $1,099.73 as a check to Paychex and coded it to payroll tax expense, you would be incorrect. And I see this like all day long. People just entering checks and coding them to the wrong amounts because they're not actually capturing everything that's happening. And you'd also, the 401k would be incorrect, your T. Rowe Price check. So this is really the best way, in my opinion, to enter, a payroll run. The nice thing is Paychex and ADP offer a system thing through their general ledger where you can actually import this journal entry right into your QuickBooks. And you don't have to do all the thinking that goes along with this. But you still need to understand that you're debiting your expense and you're crediting your cash or your liability accounts. So this one I hope is simple enough. I know it gets complicated. And then if we went here and we ran a report for that day, let's just run a profit and loss. We'll just do it for today's date. And here it shows how much it really cost for your payroll today. It was actually $3,671.61. And that included your 401k match, included your federal unemployment, your Medicare, your Social Security, and your SUTA, state unemployment tax. And it includes your gross payroll. And another reason to run this correctly is if you have a workman's comp audit. You can become much more detailed than I was in this journal entry. I mean, I put it totally to the just gross payroll. But if you have, different categories of employees and you have a very extensive workers' comp, audits, which I see all the time, then you could code part of your gross payroll to, make sub-accounts, make some clerical, make some factory worker or construction. You can really break this down even more so that when it's time for an audit, you can run a really nice report and you can say, I have 10,000 in clerical and 5,000 in factory workers. And it makes your audits much easier when you can run these types of reports. I hope you found this journal entry lesson helpful, and feel free to email me at lori@hvbookkeeping.com with any other questions. Thanks.